Hi, I'm Tim Linsdau. I'm a video producer and a Christian. Today is many days. There's a left-right argument between liberals and conservative. And a while ago I spoke on the definition of conservative. So today I thought it'd be good to let's talk about liberal. What does that mean in general and today? So, look up in the Webster's handy college dictionary, and under liberal it says favoring progress and reform in social institutions and the fullest practicable liberty of individual action. Also of a certain political party, tolerant, not strict, bountiful, generous, as in liberalism. Okay. In today's world, especially in the United States, liberal has a meaning of being open-handed, and I would say the definition of that person seems to lean towards government support, welfare, that type of thing, such as health insurance, that the government should take care of that. And I know that's a whole nother argument. And you might look on Hillsdale's Imprimis this month. There's a really good article on that subject. But let's talk about liberal. In other words, as I've said, where it's more of a socialistic approach of the government taking care of everybody on an even plane. America's great success has been on allowing individuals to think for themselves, to do what they think is best for their economy, individual economy, for their family's economy. And that's a liberal thinking, because you're allowing people to think they want to think that's best for them and hopefully for the country. Our Constitution creates an environment where we have liberty, but we have obligation to each other to protect each other from violence in and out of the country. So to be open is very important, to learn, that you're open to new things, learning new things. One generation forgets something from the previous generation or learns something new from the present generation. So you need to be open. But in today's world, the liberal side seems to be very closed-minded to anything new. I know that sounds funny or odd. Can I give an example? That's what's important here. But they take, let's take like health insurance. They wanted to try a more socialized insurance. Well, without getting into the weeds of it, it seems to be a real problem in its function. The cost of it, the availability of it, the liberal side of it is missing. In other words, having a choice for a doctor, or having choices where you can go. Because federal examples of that are the Veterans Administration, Medicare and Medicaid, I believe there's one I hadn't heard of recently, until recently, was the Indian Affairs Insurance. I'm not accurate on that, but those become very rigid environments. They have to establish order and so forth, and it turns into a bureaucracy that you can't penetrate and deal with anymore, and becomes lazy and inefficient. So in a sense, the so-called liberals are resisting positive change that would be a benefit, because they're always trying to put it into a framework in the government, rather than allowing people to make their own decisions about care, and especially hospitals and insurance companies. Those things have become so rigid, and different organizations, they don't allow any change that would improve things, that would improve the cost of insurance, that would improve the cost of hospitals. We've gotten rigid in that way. We're not open to new things and new ideas that doctors have, administrators, because there's associations that won't allow that change. And so that takes us back to the argument between liberal and conservative, is if you're not allowing that change to happen, you're not liberal. And the conservative definition of not willing to change, it actually gets reversed, because the conservatives are looking more at ways to change and improve things, where the liberal side wants to go back to seek a socialist bent direction, such as Medicare and Medicaid is really socialized medicine. And yet, many say there are better ways, because you get into these fixed order of things, they become locked down again. They're not open. And they fit into these rigid systems controlled by a few people. And that takes me to the point, I think, where I'm trying to get here. In America, its great success was opening up for everyone to seek their own economy that fits them, that works for them. And that creates competition, which means that you're going to have to perform and make a better product or a better service at a better price, because you're always going to have somebody competing against you. That's liberal and open. Where in today's liberal wants to confine it within government, because then it's something to control and manage. And where does that lead us? Massive debt, massive budgets to try to fill that debt, and we're not using real money, we're borrowing it to fulfill these obligations. So in a sense, the so-called liberal view has become fixed and rigid against changes like that, to something better, to something outside of the government, to letting people do what they see as best for them and their families. And that's the irony of it, is they're trying to make it work in this rigid environment that we must have it in the government. But as I said, when you put it in the government, you can only get so big. You can only have so many people in your bureaucracy to control things, and you're not listening to enough people. So you have to get out and capture the minds of every citizen, so that you have all of that mental input coming in into different ideas. I remember reading in a book years ago that the local gas station, the CEO of the company knows less than the individual owner about his gas station and his customers, because he can't know that. It's too big. But the individual gas station owner, he knows his customers, he knows what's going on around him. And that's kind of an example. You have to open it up and let everybody think. And now that's liberal. That takes us back to our definition, favoring progress and reform, but this says in a social institution and the fullest practical liberty of individual action. And that's kind of a dichotomy there, because in there it's saying in social institutions, but the fullest practical liberty of individual action. I'm not sure I understand that myself, but we need to be, the liberal needs to be open to new ideas and new ways of doing things at all times. Things change. You know, it's like Sears struggling to stay alive. They didn't make changes for the competition that now is pushing them out of business. You need to always be open and looking for new ideas and new change. And maybe even to look back at the old ways and see what precedent was set at that time that could be to a value to us. It doesn't mean you're so open-minded your brains fall out. I mean, there's logic and practicality here. Many things are driven by emotion. You know, stop and think. Relax. And think through things. What's worked, what didn't work. And approach life that way. Don't try to be rigid and compress it into the government machine. Be open. Well, there we are. My best ability trying to explain the difference between conservative and liberal. What does it really mean? How do we use it? How do we use it ineffectively? How do we use it against each other? Again, it's all a matter of semantics. What is really meant by those words? And how do we use them? Let's love one another. You know, remember that part. As a Christian, Jesus is the answer. So thank you, Tim Linsdau. Comment and like my video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.